This is the You Not Me podcast with Chris Behrmann. Today, we're going to talk about how leaders can inspire more than results by creating engaging environments and making it possible for their people to have intrinsic motivation. The high-performance world excludes by necessity. There's only so many people who can win. There's only so many people who can play. And, you take a sports team with soccer, you have 11 players. Basketball, you have 5. Not everyone can play the minutes that they want to. Only so many people can earn great sums of money in their career. Some careers by nature are more than others, and only so many people are able to climb the corporate ladder. So leaders need to ask why they put demands on their people. Is it about only what they get out of it, or is it about what their people can get out of it? Today, Chris is going to propose a way forward that leads both you and your people towards your greatest possible good. And that goes by the name of intrinsic motivation. So Chris, getting into today's episode, how would you define intrinsic motivation for the listeners?
Intrinsic motivation is really having an inherent desire and an interest to actually do something. It's a choice. You want to do it versus you have to do it. When things are extrinsic, when someone's demanding that you do it, and say it's a duty or something that your boss or your coach is forcing you to do, but you have no desire to do it. So then sometimes you don't give your best. Sometimes you fall short of actually using whatever it is that you're doing and growing and getting better. Where with intrinsic motivation, it's you have a deep desire to want to do something because you find enjoyment in it. You know it's making you better and it's building you for an amazing future.
Yeah, you've mentioned this distinction before, just the difference between duty and delight. And I think that the intrinsic motivation is something obviously that comes from within, whereas the extrinsic motivation is some external reward, whether it be, well, I'm going to work really hard and long hours at my job because, I care about money, or I want to be in the starting lineup on my team because I want the glory that, other people are going to give me and the praise that they're going to give me or the attention they're going to give me. In the 1980s, there was a couple of psychologists by the name of Edward Deci and Richard Ryan, and they introduced a concept called self-determination theory. Really, what they were looking at is they wanted to get to the bottom of motivation. What are the most powerful ways to people to not only sustain their motivation, but perform at the highest levels for the longest periods of time? And what kind of conditions can leaders create to really make that possible for their people? So they came up with 3 different needs, basically. And if you're familiar with like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's quite similar to that in the sense there's 3 of them: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. So Chris, if you would just take the time to go through each of these and kind of explain them one by one.
Yeah, with autonomy, it's something. You see it in so many different ways. Whether it's learning and growing for your children, whether it's as an athlete, whether it's for someone that you work with, is people want to feel like they have some sort of choice and decision in the matter. They have some sort of impact on what's going on, and so anytime you take away that autonomy and they feel like they're just a robot or they're forced to do things they don't want to do or that they disagree with, then you start to have people become disengaged. And if you look at burnout, it's because the sport that was actually fun when they were a child turned into a job because they had to go and instead of they wanted to go, and because they lost the fun and the joy of the game. Same thing happens at work. If we lose the joy of what we're doing, yeah, maybe our function isn't the greatest, but maybe you can find people around you that you love to work with or you love to please and like help your customers succeed. So can you find ways that make you want to do something because you do have some autonomy in how you act? You have a company that you work for that says, hey, here are some parameters maybe for your protection or our protection, but operate inside those parameters and go do whatever you think your customers need to be successful. And when people have that autonomy, they become creative. They think of new and better ways, and they actually outperform people that are just told to fit in this little tiny box. That's all you can do. That's what you have to do. And they just eventually get bored. And then, the next thing is, if you look at competence we all want to grow. If we're honest, the best days that I have are the days where I go out and I'm able to do something and I learn along the way and I'm able to flex my muscles to get better, whether it's my brain, whether it's my actual body going to work out. Like I feel better when I can grow and do things and get better. And so if we can learn to be more competent, but also maybe even learn to grow more mentally as far as how do we interact with people. I was talking to a good friend of mine who's a leader in the workplace, and he said, we're all high functioning people, but we want to grow. We don't want to just learn just a little bit and then stop. How do we keep growing and keep getting better? Because that's where joy is found as well. And then finally, relatedness. I mean, the relatedness, when you feel like you're a part of something, especially something that's big and impactful, it causes you to have this heart to not only, show up day in, day out because things are good. When the days are bad, when things are hard, you show up even more because you care so deeply about the people around you and the thing that you're doing. You want to see it come to fruition. You want to see it succeed. You want to see whatever it is, whatever product you're selling or the team you work for, you want to help your customers do amazing things and grow the company. You want to help your teammates get better. So that's why you give your best at practice every day, is because you know that if you give a 50% effort, your teammate wasn't getting tested as hard as they could. It's kind of like the old saying, iron sharpens iron. And if you aren't doing that, if you aren't giving your best because you don't feel committed to something, you're not going to grow and reach the best you could be.
Yeah, and you actually hit on a number of the things that the research actually echoes, just going off of your comments. The first thing that you brought up is just when people feel autonomous, they have greater levels of creativity. And so the researchers have found that creativity thrives when you have intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation, when you have the space to be free and to think and come up with new ideas. They've also found that environments that support each of these three needs lead to higher performance, greater persistence. And then finally, in one of the earliest studies that Deci did, he called this the over justification effect, which is that people were paid for tasks that they already found enjoyable. So in the study, it was solving puzzles. So they said, if anyone likes to solve a puzzle, we'll pay you to solve it. But what they found is that when they removed the reward later on, so they paid the people for a while, and then down the line, they're like, actually, you don't get paid anymore. Now you just have to do the thing and solve the puzzle just for the fun of it. They didn't even enjoy it that much anymore. So a lot of times when external rewards come into play from leaders, they actually then limit the joy of the thing that the person found in the beginning.
Yeah, I was listening to a Tim Keller sermon, and he was talking about when he was in college, he had to take a music appreciation course. And so they would listen to classical music, and he listened to classical music not because he loved classical music, but because he wanted to get an A in the course. So then therefore he would get a good GPA, then get a good job, then make money. And so he said, but then the crazy thing is, now fast forward many years, and he loves to listen to classical music, he and his wife. And he said, the thing is, at first, I did it because I wanted this external thing. But then what I found is eventually over time, I found joy and the beauty in classical music. And now I pay a lot of money to get classical music, where before I was actually doing and listening to classical music just so I can make money. So it's like the reasons for doing it flip-flopped. And now there's this beauty and joy he sees in it and that he gets from listening to it that he never had previously. And I think sometimes, yeah, sometimes things maybe we don't love them at first. I mean, there are some people that eat foods. Like I remember I love sushi now, but I don't think I loved sushi the first time I had it. But over time, I got to like it more and more. Sometimes we do things because of external motivation, and that doesn't last the long run. What really lasts in the long term is the internal reasons of why we're doing things. And even just growing, like you can grow a pile of bricks by just adding brick and brick and brick, and that's an external thing. But when you take, for example, a bulb that you plant that then becomes a tulip, well, the bulb grows just like the pile of bricks does, but it grows in a different way. It grows in an organic way. It grows in a way to where it actually changes and actually becomes even more beautiful than just adding brick on top of brick on top of brick. And same thing like with us. I mean, even whether it's in our faith or whatever it is we're doing, if we just read more scripture and we memorize scripture, but we don't actually live it out in our hearts, we don't have a joy for it in our heart, we don't have a joy for God. Well, great. You've known more scripture, but that doesn't help you actually function and love God better. The biggest thing is when you love God, then you read the scripture in a totally different way, and it means so much more, and it's so much more impactful. And you just want God for God, not I want God so that I can get things or I can be protected or whatever it is. You actually do it because the love and the beauty of the thing, which is God. And again, whatever it is that we're doing, if we do something because of the love of it, if I serve my wife because I love her deeply versus I serve my wife so I can get something from her, totally different outcome.
Yeah. To get more practical now and think about how leaders can create intrinsic motivation in their people, um, I think kind of the key frame for this is that motivation isn't really something that you can give people if you're after intrinsic motivation. Obviously, you can dangle the carrot of like fear or punishment and try and motivate people that way. But obviously, as soon as you remove those things, then there's not going to be any motivation there anymore. And people are probably not going to even enjoy the task that they were doing in the first place. So instead, leaders have to create an environment where intrinsic motivation is going to flourish. If we want to look at each of these three needs one by one, just starting with the autonomy, how are some ways that leaders can create intrinsic motivation by looking at that need?
Yeah, I think again, it's giving people a meaningful choice, and sometimes if you give people just totally blank canvas, well, they may go in a direction that is really wrong. But at the same time, at least if nothing else, give them choices and give them opportunity to have some creativity in what they're doing. Because if we just micromanage somebody, eventually people just feel like totally inept and they're basically useless and they can be replaced by anybody that's just doing this copy and paste thing versus actually having some of their own flair and leaving their own fingerprints on it. And also, I mean, if you encourage people to give their input on how to make things better and allow them to take ownership, and that's something where I think too many people forget about the fact that it's good to give people a voice versus you just want them to be yes people and say, yes, that's great. But they know very well that what they're being told to do isn't working with the customer or in relationships with clients or whatever it is. And so I think just really looking at just the ways to get people to be more thoughtful and creative. I mean, even look at like Google or some places, like they'll give people a full either day or half day to just work on any project they want with whatever their heart desired. And then they could submit it. And some of those things turn into some of the most amazing positive ideas and directions of the company because people were given the freedom to do that versus you just have to do your job, do your role, stay in your lane, and that's it.
What about competence? How can leaders create intrinsic motivation by meeting that need?
Yeah, again, with competence, it's how do we look at people where they are, love them where they are, but also don't leave them there. And how do we, put a standard out there that is good for them to help and grow, but also find ways to look at what can they do to grow and get better. And too often we just think that people have reached this level and they're good. They don't need to do anything else. But it's like, well, if we ever stop growing, that means that we're either staying the same or we're starting to stagnate and actually get worse and go backwards. And so if you look at people that don't do good work, they start to get just frustrated with life because it gets boring and monotonous and they're just doing the same thing over and over. They want challenges, they want to learn and grow. And I think just making sure that when you give somebody a goal that you want them to achieve, don't have them go from here to like here, have them go from here to here and then here to here. And then just make these goals achievable, especially with children. Anytime, I mean, if I take a super talented 8-year-old and I say, "Well, you're so good and so talented, I'm gonna stick you with the 14 or 15-year-olds," that kid's gonna get absolutely slaughtered. And so it's like, okay, let's maybe have him play a year or 2 up so we can stretch him a little bit, but not to the point to where it hits a level of despair where he can't even keep up. And so I think just with our people, if they truly know how much we care and that we're investing in them to grow, whether it's their skills or even outside of their skills to some other part that they have a passion for that is in the company or in the industry or with the customers or whatever it is that you're working with, that's when people get really engaged. And they not only do they feel engaged, they feel loved and cared for. And those are the people that will, they'll outperform everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think as well, like when it comes to competence, whenever someone's trying to grow um, towards mastery or build confidence or build skill, develop in some way, I think one of the greatest threats to their progress and just sustaining themselves along that journey is obviously failure. And I saw a random advertisement. I don't know, I think it was like a billboard or something the other day, and it said, "Mastery is built upon a mountain of mistakes."
Mm.
As an English major, I love the alliteration with all the M's, but
Sorry.
um, but I was like, man, that's so true. Like, you look at anyone who's at the very highest level in anything that they've done, how many times have they made mistakes? How many times have they failed? And I think that as a leader, one of the things that you can do that continues to build that intrinsic motivation as people look towards competence is just teaching them to view failure as an opportunity to grow,
Mm. Yeah.
not as something that's like, oh, this is the end of the world, your progress is derailed or whatever. But it's like, great, you made that mistake. Like, now you can learn from it. Like, it's a really good opportunity to continue to get better.
Yeah, so and just one other thing back to the failures is I think, I mean, you hit on such a key point is that if you're a leader that only looks at the short term, you're going to get frustrated with the failures because you're just seeing it's kind of like the stock market. I mean, the thing is you see these erratic things, and but if you've only zoomed in for like a couple days, you might be freaked out by the ups and downs. But then if you span it out over time, those ups and downs were actually like almost like this, but just barely little blips on the radar. And if we look at people and we don't allow them to fail, we don't give them freedom to say, hey, if you fail, we still care deeply about you. And the biggest thing we want to do is identify, is there something you could have done differently or better for the next time so that you can learn and grow. And anytime you have somebody that absolutely, whether it's a coach, if a player makes one mistake and after that mistake, they yank them out of the game right away. Well, what has that kid basically been told? It's that you fail, you're out. Instead of, hey, you failed, I got faith in you. Keep going. And, whether it's yelling something of encouragement from the sideline or waiting till, halftime or whenever to talk about that thing, but give them confidence that you believe in them. And same with anybody in the workplace is making sure that it's that you're free to fail. But the problem is if you keep doing it because you keep making the same mistakes, well, that's a problem. But if you make a mistake, as you said, let's learn from it, identify how can we do it better, and then that's the fun of growing. Then your next, swing at the plate with that next customer or whoever it is, or even going back to the same customer and saying, hey, you know what? I totally made a mistake. We should have gone this way. And maybe because of your honesty and your integrity, the person is super impressed and they maybe choose to work with you, or maybe they choose to work with you next time. Because again, it's not, if it's just a, short term, then you're going to lose your people because failure is going to be too big. You're going to get rid of them. Or even if it's a leader, I mean, look at coaches that have been sacked. I mean, the circus and the cycle that as far as managers, it's crazy, and people are given 3 to 6 months sometimes to turn a team around that was doing poorly, and if they don't, they're out, and it's like you didn't even give the guy a chance. So back to just giving people the freedom to fail.
Yeah. If we move into relatedness now, this is like your absolute wheelhouse, just bread and butter, meat and potatoes here. I mean, you should hit a homer here. Yeah, there you go. What about relatedness? How can leaders meet the needs of their people in that way?
I, I think the hardest thing that I see is that people forget to tell people why they're doing it in the first place. Because yeah, it's easy when things are going well, when you're winning, everything's great, culture's great, relationships are exciting, everybody's slapping each other in the back, excited. But when the hard times come, can you remind people why they're doing what they're doing and help them see that you're a part of something bigger than just an outcome. You're a part of actually changing the life of a customer and then their customers or the people around you, your teammates, whatever it is. So helping people remember why it is that you're doing whatever it is you're doing, first and foremost. Secondly is just, I mean, if you just deeply and genuinely care, back to the Oswald Chambers quote, with sincerity, is that the appearance and the reality are exactly the same. If you can actually live that out with your people that report to you, with your friends, with your family, that's what creates amazing relationships. And you really, when people see that not only do you genuinely care, but you're willing to suffer and sacrifice along with them or even for them, that's what builds deep trust. And that's what actually creates these amazing relationships that they're not only related to you in the fact that, yes, maybe you work at the same company, but they're actually, you turn that colleague into a friend, that friend into a family member, and to where you truly will go above and beyond. Just kind of like the post you put the other day, not just going the first mile, you'll go the second mile with somebody because you care deeply.
Absolutely. If we're gonna kind of wrap this up here and just get to a super practical level, action steps that people can take literally today, whether it's at home, at work, as a coach, as a teammate, and really put this into practice. I think one of the key things to remember with all this stuff and with any episode that we release or any content that we release is that knowledge only means something if you apply it. You know, that's kind of the difference between knowledge and wisdom. I think knowledge is obviously just knowing the what, and then wisdom is knowing how to take the what and apply it in the right way at the right time. So, if we're looking at just some practical shifts that people can make in wisdom as leaders to create intrinsic motivation in their people by creating an environment where that thrives, what are some things that you would propose?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at again back to micromanagement, it's like some people want to treat people like they're playing a video game, and it's like command and control people. Like you do what I say, this is what I do. Every versus guiding people on what to do, and then empowering them to do it with whatever way that they see fit. The best way, because no single experience is exactly the same, and so they have to be empowered to make some decisions. They have to be able to take some input and actually make sure that they're doing the right thing for that moment that maybe wasn't in the playbook because things have changed. The other thing that I think is really, we talked about this previously, is just relationships over outcomes. When you care deeply about somebody more so than what the outcome is, they're going to feel that, and then over time the outcomes will take care of themselves because that person knows how deeply you care, and they're going to go above and beyond to try to please you and honor you. They're going to go above and beyond to try to take care of their customers because they know how deeply they're cared for by their company, and that's what's going to create the amazing outcomes. And then looking at just people as at their character, their integrity, their effort, not just performance. Because again, there are times that we're all going to fall short, we're going to make mistakes, but if you know that person has a heart to learn and grow and get better, then that's all that really matters. They're going to get better over time if you truly invest in them. And then I think if you take, instead of using rewards to motivate somebody, like you said, if it's just a carrot that's dangled out there, if you achieve this number of sales or whatever it is, then we'll give you this. Instead, it's like celebrate them and reward them for the effort that they've done. And because sometimes maybe the goals were crazy, maybe they are outlandish. And that's why, I mean, even for me, the reason I've been so successful in sales is I really don't care what goal you give me. I'm not going to do anything differently day in and day out. I'm going to do the exact same thing, whether the goal is this big or this big, because I want to do everything with excellence, whether it's out of my own work that I'm doing or for the customers that I'm serving or for my company. And so, I would rather be personally told that I've done a great job and seeing the work that I've done that's gone in, whether it's turned out to be a great outcome or not, because some of these things are out of our control. There are many things that we don't, have a true control over, but we do have control over our effort. And then again, I think the last thing we talked about this is let people be free to fail. Like don't punish them because they've made a mistake. Love them deeply, help them see how they could have maybe done it differently or better, but also put it in a positive way that helps them see how much you really want to help them grow and get better. And I'm going to read this because this is something I heard Tim Keller say, which was just amazing. Again, just back to just how much my faith means to me. And the way that I try to live now is not because I want people to think I'm a good person or I'm trying to follow all the laws and do everything correctly. It's because of the heart and the gratitude I have for what Christ did for me. And he says, when you see the beauty of what Christ did for you, it changes your heart. It makes pleasure and duty one. And he said, there's an old hymn that says, our pleasure and our duty, though opposite before, since we have seen his beauty, are joined apart no more. To see the law by Christ fulfilled and hear his pardoning voice, transform a slave into a child and duty into choice. And I think that's just an amazing way to sum this up, is that anytime that we truly have a heart and a love for somebody or something that we're doing, and we see the beauty in it. We have joy when we're doing it. We know we're growing it better, and we're doing it for something that is, we're related to, something bigger than ourselves that's maybe helping other people get better as well. That's when it changes from duty to a choice. We want to do it, and we have a deep desire to do it with excellence. And what a great way to lead people then to love them well, and you'll see this intrinsic motivation grow as you continue to care deeply about them.
Well, that's the perfect way to bring today's episode to a close, Chris. Thanks so much for the conversation today. For the listeners, take that challenge on board and be the kind of leader that will work for the betterment of your people today. Everyone's joy, engagement, and future hinges on it, including your own. And if you've enjoyed this content from You Not Me, or if you have any questions for us, please feel free to reach out. You can reach us in a lot of places on social media, via email, website, LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. So we'd love to hear from you if this has been an encouragement to you, and feel free to share this with a friend. Thanks so much.
Thanks.